Well, welcome to our study today. We're going to look at criticism because it's important for us to understand that criticism gets us nowhere. All it does is it jerks the rug out from under us and we end up falling through into a mess. We don't need to criticize anything. We need to be positive and turn things over to God that bothers us that we can't handle. We're not to criticize, as Proverbs 19:11 tells us. And here's what it says. It calls us to be slow to anger and willing to overlook personal offenses instead of living in a spirit of criticism and retaliation. We should never get to the point to where criticism and retaliation dominates us. So what Proverbs 19:11 is telling us is saying this along with most translations. It says that good sense makes one slow to anger and his glory to overlook an offense. You know, it's hard sometimes for us to pass by an offense and not pay it any attention, but that's exactly what God is saying here in Proverbs. We are to look past it, not let it stop us, not let it cause us problems. We're to rise above it, basically, and move on. Now, we know that this means that a wise person does not react quickly, but they pause, they think, and often chooses to let the thing just totally pass by and ignore it. Now, if you can't ignore it, you need to turn it over to God. And then you need to get on with your life and let God take care of business for you. Now, not living in constant criticism. Criticism usually flows from things like pride, impatience, and a desire to set people straight. Somehow or another, deep inside, people have this idea, I have just got to get this person straight. They do not know what they're doing. A lot of times, it's none of our business. We really need to mind our own business. Let God, turn it over to God. Go to Him and pray to Him and tell God. He already knows about the situation, but you're asking Him into the situation to help that person. So instead of trying to set that person straight, turn it over to God. Let God do the straightening of the person. Proverbs 19:11 teaches the opposite spirit. We need to use discretion before we speak. Think about what you're going to say before you say it. You know, words can do a lot of damage that you can't undo. And refuse to let every irritation become an argument. The problem is people love to argue today about everything. My word is the solemn truth. I'm the only one you listen to. My opinion's the only one that counts. And basically, my argument is the one that you should listen to. We need to choose mercy over fault finding and show mercy over fault finding. You know, when we constantly criticize, we are quick to anger and slow to understand, which is the reverse of godly wisdom. You see, we should be quick to understand and slow to anger, just the opposite. But we're not. And that gets us into trouble. We get into areas we shouldn't get into. Now, the glory of overlooking an offense. You know, Scripture calls it our glory to overlook a transgression, which is meaning it is an honor and spiritual maturity to forgive instead of fight. Let me tell you, it's a whole lot easier to forgive than to fight because no matter, even if you win the battle, there's an excellent chance you'll lose the war. So what have you gained? Nothing. Overlooking an offense is not pretending sin against God does not matter because it does. It is choosing to let go of personal slights and hurts for the sake of peace and love. Let me tell you, the hardest thing you can do is when you run into someone that's been ugly to you and about God and things like that, it's hard to turn the other cheek. But if you got Jesus in your heart, you got love in your heart, you will turn it. We're not to criticize. Proverbs 19:11 tells us. We're to turn the other cheek and move on. Let God do what He does, and you simply stay out of those kind of battles because you're not going to win them. And then there's a call to good sense. You see, good sense is discretion as spirit-led wisdom that slows our reaction. You see, we have, I guess you say, a discretion to do what we would do. Good sense tells us don't get into a push and shove. Don't get into arguments. Don't enter a battle that there's no way you're going to win. It tells us that we need to turn it over to the Lord. And wisdom tells us we don't need to react to this. Just give it to God and keep moving forward. The sin of a critical spirit shows how, a constant criticism springs from pride, anger, and a lack of love. That's where it springs from. And pride in some people you're just not going to overcome. Anger, all it's going to do is make it even worse. And the lack of love, if there's not love there, it is going to be very difficult to get that person to make any changes. Somewhere you got to get that person to realize that whatever it is that's bothering them is not worth it. That they can overcome that. The glory of overlooking things, and that's what they need to be taught. We need to do it, and prayerfully they catch on and they will do it too. We need to teach that it's more Christ-like, it's more honorable to forgive, overlook, and move on when we are personally offended. We don't need to keep hanging on to these things because, look, when you take a little problem and you have a disagreement with someone and maybe you don't see eye to eye with them, the longer you hang on to that, the larger it gets. It goes from a little something of much of nothing to a full-grown argument, dislike, and busting a fellowship up. It should never be busted up. Now, walking it out, we need to invite people to pause before speaking. Think about what you're going to say. And better yet, let's do what the teenagers used to do. Do what Jesus would do. What would he do in a situation like that? And if we can answer that and follow that pattern, we're going to end up helping people. We need to pray for those who hurt us. God tells us we need to do that and decide ahead of time to forgive and not to live over and over again this offense and keep bringing it up. You think about this, a little illustration that I read based on this scripture here, and it was like this. Imagine if you held a press conference every time someone annoyed you. It says that life would be consumed by offenses. Wisdom knows what to ignore for the sake of peace. You see, God's wisdom will help you and I know when to let it go and when not. Now, we're not going to learn that with worldly wisdom, with Satan wisdom, with human wisdom, with flesh wisdom, but we'll learn that with God's wisdom. Well, God bless. I hope you enjoy this. Continue praying for the unspoken, our world, our country, Israel, and Iran, and everybody, that their hearts will be changed. God bless, and I'll see you next time.